Can JASMY really hit $1 in 2025? Well, I have the exact answer for you in this video, but I'm going to do one thing better and give you guys a super secret bullish feature that just no one seems to be talking about. But the funny thing is, it's kind of hiding in plain sight, and I want to explain it to you today. But first, this is very bullish, particularly to you JASMY sort of convicted people, you bulls, okay? So I want to do one thing before we start this video and tell you to strap yourselves in. And I mean that. I don't want you buying before I finish today's video, okay? So yes, it will be a huge contributing factor for JASMY hitting $1, which seems to be the magic number everyone consistently talks about. And so let's actually get into what that bullish feature is first. But to do so, you're going to need some context. This is very important that we understand what this actually is first, okay? So JASMY isn't its own network, right? It doesn't have its own layer 1 network where obviously it can absorb demand from users just simply transacting from peer-to-peer in the network, okay? So it actually has to absorb demand from its business model. And this essentially is its business model. You can kind of forget investors for now. I'll explain how this loops into it in just a second. But it's a two-sided marketplace, right? You have buyers and you have sellers. So let's start off with the sellers because none of this can happen. JASMY can't even really be a thing unless these guys actually happen first. So the actual sellers have to be in place first, right? That's, again, people like you and me, consumers, the retail market, people who want to actually use JASMY itself. And we want to use JASMY, or at least purchase the JASMY token, again, demand. This is where this bullish feature will stem from for things like transactions, or in the words of JASMY themselves, digital currency. Now, I want to loop back to transactions. You can't actually use JASMY, as far as I'm aware, for actually transacting on a so-called network. Now, they're doing a few things in the back end right now that's going to enable that, but I added transactions to this list because transactions can encompass you transferring your JASMY tokens outside of the smart contract and using it in DeFi or anything else on the Ethereum network, because it is an Ethereum smart contract, right? So you have consumers on one end, but then the buyers over here, the enterprise business market, actually are the people who want to buy data from us, the consumers. So these guys have to lock their JASMY into the network to access the what are called personal data lockers, or PDLs, right? Which are pretty much where we upload very secure manner all of our IoT or data, and where enterprises can pull from so long as we agree to that, okay? And over here, of course, they obviously pay us in the JASMY token to then access that data. Now, I've added investors in here as well. This is part of the demand or token absorption, because JASMY is a big buzzword right now. It's talked about quite a lot, almost on the grand scale of a meme coin at this point. It's been just shot up out of the blue, and it's been around for quite a while now. Everyone just seems to be talking about it, okay? And so this actually is a form of demand, because what do investors do? They buy up the supply, in this case, obviously tokens, hoping for price appreciation, okay? They hope to make some gains. And again, this is how price will appreciate. This is going to all make sense in just a moment. So this is actually, we'll explain the super bullish feature I'm talking to you about. And it's just two words, right? Network effects. So let me explain to you what happens, and I'll sum it up. So as a user, you and I, we join the network as sellers selling our data. We upload our IoT data to the personal data lockers. Now, I want to make one thing very clear. JASMY won't succeed without us uploading our data. Therefore, we need to be incentivized to put our data on this network. It's as simple as that. And for those who don't know what IoT is, very, very briefly, this video isn't designed to explain JASMY in depth or what IoT is, but essentially it's Internet of Things, okay? It's literally anything like a phone, a smartwatch, the camera recording this, your toaster, for God's sake, that can track how many toasts you've had for that day. I don't know what kind of you can go on from there, but anything from even the lights in my studio room, as long as they have Bluetooth, as long as they somehow can connect to something that has access to the internet, you can then upload that to the cloud, which can then be transferred onto JASMY for this, in the PDLs, right, for safe, secure storage and to sell it. So with that being said, once we have done that, let's just say, okay, and we've uploaded all of our IoT data to the PDLs, we can then get the enterprises to want to buy that, okay? So what they'll do at this point is stake their JASMY tokens to access this and then pay us for our data, okay? So we're pretty much just getting money for just doing nothing, right? Just uploading our data to the cloud, or Jasmy in this case. So the consumption of data will then ensue. So obviously, as I said, users will receive Jasmy from the enterprises, and the enterprises can then do something pretty cool. They can create better applications. They can take this data and formulate new software, whole new products, whatever it might be. You can imagine having, let's just say, smartwatches, or not just smartwatches, but as I said before, with toasters as an example, or ovens, right? And they can see people's heart rate and how healthy they are, and based on the foods that they have in their household and what they're cooking, essentially. And this all gets transferred back into businesses, which can then see this and go, okay, well, in this certain city, in this certain country, they are particularly bad or have worse heart rates because of this reason, and they can tailor their products to solving these things. This is at least the benefits that come from it. I think we all know the negatives of this sort of stuff as well. So yes, this information is highly sought after, and is why a lot of your healthcare records sell from $2,000 to $10,000. Yes, it actually does happen without you knowing. Jasmy allows you to monetize this. But essentially, the whole sort of outcome of this process so far is that users are going to want to use Jasmy more and upload more data. Why? Well, it's simple. More payouts. These kind of enterprises are paying you money simply to upload your data. So what does that mean, right? More users join and then add. Because if I'm making money from Jasmy, my brother's going to ask me, or my cousin will also ask me, hey, Kyron, how are you making your money? Oh, simple, guys. Just upload your bloody data to Jasmy. Simple. And then over here, this double-sided effect is the more data that is uploaded and available on Jasmy for enterprises to get, the more enterprises are going to want to join, because also their competitors are then using that. They have the advantage. We want the advantage. And also it's just like awesome data, okay? And then so, you get also larger enterprises joining as well. And therefore this sort of circuit continues and continues. And this is called network effects. And this is the super secret sauce that you really need to understand, because this is also the only way Jasmy absorbs demand. And when Jasmy absorbs demand, just like any other so-called network or application, that's what appreciates the price. We don't just get appreciation from investors. Okay, we actually need to have demand from somewhere, or it's going to hit a plateau eventually. And this is Jasmy's business model. So it's important you remember this. And we're going to cycle back to summarize this in a moment. But you kind of get this massive demand and network effects, and then you partner it with the fixed supply, which is important, okay, because no more tokens coming into circulation, right? Right now it's about 95% in circulation. Well, then you get something called a supply shock, okay? And it's when you kind of have, okay, steady demand, but then you have a sort of medium to small sized amount of demand pop into the market, aka people buying the Jasmy token, and then boom, demand just shoots up very, very quickly, exponential returns, okay? So you kind of get that effect in this case, which Jasmy again has. I want to say though, this is strictly talking about short-term effects here. Short-term effects from supply shocks. Again, I'm going to touch on this in a minute. Then the network effects, which I had just explained with that flowchart, has actually the same consequence, right? So what happens is, as you get more and more users joining the Jasmy network and uploading their data, and then, businesses on the other end kind of buying that data off people, well, slowly but surely, it's not going to be too steady, but then all of a sudden you're going to get to a tipping point highlighted here, where you might have a large enterprise. There'll be a point in time at least where it's then viable for a certain business or businesses to go, okay, now it's time for us to jump in. This is serious stuff. And when that moment happens, you have crazy exponential returns. So these two kind of work hand in hand. One is short-term, one is long-term. Let me kind of explain to you a little bit more in a moment. So we now kind of understand the super secret sauce here, right? It's called a network effect, and Jasmy has a really good business model in place to allow that to be absorbed. And we also have a supply shock as well. So it's got these two amazing sort of exponential possibilities here. But how much demand is Jasmy going to have to absorb for it to go to $1? Well, it's actually simple maths, believe it or not. Since the circulating supply in at least 2025-ish will be more or less 50 billion tokens, well, right, the market cap's going to have to be $50 billion. As simple as that. From today's about $180 or $180 million rather, that's a 272x of the market cap, guys. That is huge and therefore highly unlikely, and in my opinion, would only occur with lots of demand. Now, let me tell you, this is where it's going to cycle back. That demand can't just come from investors. People like you and I, and let's face it, 90% of this damn market is degens. And what do degens do? Well, they just simply buy the news. If there's some kind of good news out, they'll just simply buy up the token and hope for the best. Okay, and that only gets you so far. Look at meme coins, right? They have all their tokens in circulation. You have these huge spikes, and then obviously it tanks because there's no support there. There's no actual utility in place. And if there is utility, it's something stupid typically, right? So these are the two types of demand I think will primarily be in place until now to 2027 again. In my opinion, the IoT market itself is a long-term play, 2030 plus at the minimum, okay? So you kind of partner this then with JASMY'S business model, which is heavily reliant on users submitting data and then businesses wanting to absorb that data. So yeah, this is going to take a long time because network effects typically does. So Web3 speculation is the first one, and this is what's going to prop the price up to JASMY, I think, the most. And again, it won't hit that $50 billion market cap level. So retail/small investors want a piece of the action and buy because of speculation. Simple as that. Now, it does work well with some really positive news, of course, but it's always short, sharp pumps, even with unverified proof. People just buy without even thinking and verifying the news that comes out. So I think JASMY will be one of those situations, kind of like a meme coin that, there might be some really bullish news at one point, pumps the price up, but JASMY is a long-term hold in my opinion. If it all plays out correctly, 100%, it'll hit $1, but it's a long-term hold, okay? Not what you bulls want to hear. Now, also enterprise as well. So businesses are using the application/network for its intended purpose, aka collecting the data. Now, news obviously of a new big partner, for example, will definitely incur a pump, but provides steady growth over time, especially when the business grows. So that's businesses using the network itself. When they grow, they get bigger and bigger. They might, need to use more data, for example, in whatever they're possibly doing, and therefore it's going to create more demand. Again, we have the sort of two sides here, but I see it playing out over the long term. Let me summarize for you guys. What does this all mean? Well, price moves primarily from enterprise use. I think we've all figured that out. Yes, retail speculation is going to obviously pump the price in the short term, just like every other cryptocurrency out there, but it's not going to be the long-term play here. However, in the short term, I strongly believe, mainly from retail curiosity, JASMY will need to double down on attracting companies that are heavy into IoT or rely on customer data. This means JASMY is a long-term investment if you are talking about a $1 token, kind of like I summarized. Now, JASMY is in a really good position though, okay? JASMY is a coin from Japan. Now, a lot of people have coined it the Bitcoin of Japan. I don't know where the hell that came from, but it's got nothing to do with Bitcoin. It is nothing like Bitcoin. It's a smart contract on Ethereum and operates nothing like Bitcoin at all. So I don't know where that came from. I wanted to clarify, but essentially it has a really strong foothold in Japan. At least it's got some decent partners, and one of those, and the largest, is Cosmos, big company itself, okay? And so IoT itself in Japan or Asia as a whole is a really good place to actually absorb this sort of stuff. Again, it's bigger than the US market itself. And as we can see here, by 2030, it's expected to grow all the way up to just under $800 billion in total. And guess what? Most of it is from automotive in blue here. And there's been some talks that apparently JASMY might be actually partnered in some capacity with Toyota. Unverified, okay? Let me just read this paragraph to you, right? So penetrating the Asian market and becoming the de facto product for all IoT data in Asia, obviously excluding the world here, this isn't the world's IoT market, means reaching $1 would be relatively easy. Now, Asia particularly, why I bring Asia up, again, it's where JASMY is kind of focused, but it is by far one of the largest trade industries in the world, and it's important because IoT sensors can be placed in these sort of shipping containers to ensure that the goods are sealed correctly or have the right temperature. And obviously it's very heavy in the technology as well. Look at Japan, South Korea, China, Thailand, things like that, okay? And so yes, IoT is going to be a big market over there. And so I believe that JASMY is in a good position. Now, to summarize, guys, this is going to completely depend on their connections. You think about it like this. If you are, someone like you and I, for example, and we want to upload our data, maybe they somehow crush that. Maybe they give a really good incentive to do that, or maybe it's just like everyone goes, hey, you know what? Let's just give this JASMY coin a try, and we upload to the PDLs, right? Well, then the next biggest thing for them is attacking really hard market. Web 2 markets aren't easy to disrupt, so they're going to have to somehow get these big connections into place and then get them, starting on that network effect journey. Again, it's going to take a long time. So, be prepared to hold for a long time if you are underwater with JASMY. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate every single one of you. If you want to see a video on JASMY, click the one on your left. And if you want to see me build a portfolio, click the video on your right. All right, guys, thanks again. Talk to you soon.